Okay, that's a little abrupt. I'm going to have to...
Jump cut.
Okay, yeah, that's a little too abrupt. So I got the obviously I got the intro back, but now I'm gonna have to go in and do some fade work and get that thing working correctly. But yeah, so good morning, everybody. Good morning, team. I see Megan's with us. Good morning. Megan's got first blood. Uncle Steve's with us. Trish, good morning. Good morning. Jason's with us. Good to see you, brother. Dude, Maddie Parks is with us this morning. Hell yes. And I've got Mario with us this morning. We're going to talk about, I still need to get a big pickle jar to put back there that says, with a bunch of quarters in it that says Alex Jones is always right. And it's looking more and more like I'm going to need one right next to it that says Trump is always right. Mario, remember what Trump said on the trail in 2016?
He said a lot of things.
For the just racism, because he said they're not sending their best.
Yeah, right. That is correct. And also someone's doing the raping. And
time to put another quarter in the jar. So I said at the time, and we've talked about that in the line of the many hoaxes over the years since then. Here's what actually went down. Donald Trump said that the criminals that are coming across the border, they're not sending their best. Some of them, he said, some of them are murderers and rapists and drug dealers. The reply, the response, the rebuttal, the propaganda was Donald Trump said all Mexicans are rapists and murderers and drug dealers, except he didn't say that. He said that among those hostile foreign invaders, among the criminal aliens that are coming across the border illegally, there are some of them that are not only criminals because they're crossing the border illegally, but they are criminals. They were already criminals having committed these crimes in their host nations before they became hostile foreign invaders. Right. They were already rapists and murderers and drug dealers in their foreign countries. They're coming over here. And we've seen the stats. We've seen that these people come over here and reoffend. We have since learned that not only was that going on, but specifically some of these foreign countries, especially the ones in South America, were taking their worst criminals out of their own prison systems and then busing them up to the Mexican border to send them into America.
Why wouldn't you?
For so many reasons. One,
why wouldn't you?
It takes the burden off your own federal prison system, right? And shifts it to the American welfare state. Gets those people out of your country.
Yep.
And y'all, no shit, they've been reporting some of their lowest crime statistics in decades because they've sent all their criminals to us. So the left-wing rebuttal suggested that Donald Trump was wrong to suggest that all Mexicans are rapists, murderers, and drug dealers. Well, that rebuttal insinuates that there's no such thing as a Mexican that is also a criminal. So I'm sorry. You'll hear us say all the time, two things can be true at the same time. It's also possible for two things to be false at the same time. It is possible that it is simultaneously true that not all Mexicans are criminals and that not all Mexicans aren't criminals. That somewhere in between those two extremes, there exists such a thing as a Mexican who is also a criminal.
And
that doesn't mean all.
Quetzalcoatl worshiping child sacrificers.
Exactly.
Well, I mean, I've said for years that that Mexico's number one export to America is the bottom 10% of its population.
Correct.
Which is, I mean, it's just understood. I mean, yeah, relieve yourself the burden of your trash if someone else is willing to take it in, and all you got to do is wait on a 4-year cycle for a. I hope you get a Democrat in office who will allow it to happen, because for them, demographic replacement of Americans is the secret path to success for future political power. All right, because
an interesting thing happened last year, Mario, and I know we talked about this on the show. We've heard Tucker Carlson get accused of spreading the insane conspiracy theory of white replacement theory, except Tucker was very clear. He talked about replacement, not white replacement. He talked about replacement. And the interesting thing that happened last year, right in the middle of the year, right in the middle of the election campaigns, all the black voters in places like Chicago and Detroit and New York started saying, yo, we're being replaced.
Yeah.
And we're all sitting over here like, yeah, brother.
Except for them, it's not. They're taking our jobs. They're taking our Gibbs. That money, that's our money. You can't have our Gibbs money.
And and to your point there, we even saw with Hurricane Helene and Hurricane Milton, Alejandro Mayorkas straight up came out and said, we don't have money. We don't have any money in FEMA to help with these hurricane disasters, because he literally said, because we've spent this much, we've spent several $1 million on assistance for hostile foreign well, he didn't say hostile foreign aliens, which he should have, but he literally came out and said, we spent the money on illegal immigrants, and so we don't have money to help you,
right.
Poor white people in red states. Oh, but by the way, when California catches on fire, we're going to promise to rebuild every penny of that.
And that happened right before the election as well. And I think that may have been like the last straw. That, you know what I mean? The final insult that the American people were willing to bear. And thankfully so.
Well, the clear hope was that enough Trump voting redistricts would just be unable to get to the polls.
Yeah. That Trump country's underwater, therefore they can't vote. But I was concerned about that going into election night, that North Carolina would be in play simply due to the devastation of Trump's key demographics in the state. That turned out not to be true. There are enough, like I said, there were enough people on the East Coast who had switched sides, or based on the exit polls, that we knew it was going to be an early night by 9 to 10, by 10 p.m. Thankfully. Anyway, so
yeah, that was pretty amazing.
Yeah. So you want to get into the?
So we've got new information on this idea that, well, let's face it, the Biden administration, the Biden regime, was actively engaged in human trafficking. It was a business that they didn't just allow it to happen. They were actively enabling it, funding it, and working to make it happen. So we have this from Revolver, and Mario unearthed this one for us, and we've been talking about this over the last day. Report: unearthed FOIA docs expose Biden regime's diabolical TSA plot.
Right. So since little backstory here, since the Freedom of Information Act requests, okay, for maybe for the European audience who may not know, this is where a citizen can request documents, or basically request documents with by inputting keywords, okay, making a query essentially, and for the release of information that the government has, okay. Sometimes it gets redacted, okay, because there are things that are classified. Other times it doesn't, and then other times the government just says, you know what, we don't care. We're just going to ignore, stymie, or stonewall your request, which is what happened a lot during the Biden administration. Okay. Right. Well, thankfully now
Mark, have you ever had to deal with a FOIA request? Have you ever actually had to file one?
Only when you, for some reason, filling out a SF-86, like to renew my clearance or something, I had to do one for something that the government, I don't know, some original document that I didn't have that was on file. I had to FOIA request my own stuff. Yeah. So other than that, no.
I've done a few of these. I've actually done a few of these as part of putting together content for the show, and as part of helping buddies out who got themselves sideways of the law, man. And I tell you what, you talk about stonewalling. There's another element there. The FOIA law says that the government has to reply to the request. It's wrapped up in the First Amendment right of the people to petition the government for redress of grievances. But while they're told that they have to honor the request, they have to produce the documents. The law says that they're allowed to charge you a reasonable rate for the documents. So in theory, what it's supposed to be is that they can charge you enough to cover the cost of making copies, because paper costs money, ink costs money, and enough to cover the cost of the government employee doing the research to find the documents, make the photocopies, and deliver them to you. And of course, that's absurd. I already pay taxes for this government employee to have this job, and no, that's my employee. That's my paper. That's my ink. You shouldn't get charged this.
It's not so bad. I mean, it's like the old days at the library where you had to put quarters into the printer. You know what I mean?
No, it's not like that. It's not like that, because the law is worded in this way. And what that translates into is, go ahead and file your FOIA request, and we're going to go ahead and find everything we can related to it, so that your cost is $5,000-$10,000. They make it economically prohibitive to get your FOIA request back. They've got all kind of little tricks they use to keep you from getting your documents.
Here's 10,000 pages. Here's 10,000 documents, right? And maybe 0.5% of it is relevant to your search, and the rest of this is slop. But hey, you got to pay for the death of a sequoia, which
yeah. Yep.
So, anyway, investigative reporter Breanna Morello. Okay, you guys can check her out if you want. I don't know. She seems a little fishy. There's too many people on the right, within the right wing media sphere, who just appear out of nowhere, and it's like, who's paying for you? Where did you come from? Whatever. Okay, different topic. But anyway, Breanna Morello, she's the investigative reporter releasing this. All right, and it turns out that the Transportation Security Administration, the TSA, all right, is colluding with the Department of Homeland Security to shuffle undocumented, illegal, hostile foreign invaders all across the country during Biden's last 4 years, and at the same time they conspire to prevent ICE from intercepting these people. So you got three government agencies here, right? TSA working with the DHS to prevent ICE from doing their job and shuffle these people across the country for whatever, either human trafficking, under the table cheap wages for chicken processing plants, or just straight up demographic replacement of American people, biological terrorism, one reason or another. But that's what was going on, all right? And we knew this was going on, but I don't think now we're seeing some of the details of how this operation ran, thanks to the FOIA requests that are finally being honored, all right? So this all falls under the CBP-1, all right? CBP-1 is that app that was kind of made famous during the Biden administration, where illegals can basically get their documents in order, or lack of documents, right? Just to get the process started before they even make it to the border, all right? By filling out the information on this app, which will provide them helpful clues on what trails to take, what paths to take to the U.S. border, who to contact, where to get your free stuff along the way from various NGOs, right, who are basically sponsoring the event like it was the Boston Marathon, all right, all the way up to the U.S. border.
Real quick, we're talking about an app.
Yeah, an app on your phone,
right?
Correct.
As in these poor, pitiful illegals who are starving to death and being persecuted in their war-torn, horrific horror nation, or nations of origin, who can hardly afford to put shoes on their feet. They showing up got $1,000 smartphone that they can use to subvert the American border.
They could get
And
free phones on the way.
I can't imagine where they might have gotten that from.
Well, it'd be basically unsold, like, Apple 10s and previous generation type phones that they're just handed out, that the U.S. government probably purchases from tech companies just wholesale, because it's unused stock that they can't sell because they're no longer doing the
well, what I was really getting at, Mario, is
updates. But yeah,
is with USAID no longer funneling as much money out to these NGOs.
Yes,
fewer of these illegals are going to be getting their hands on these smartphones.
Well, that's because, yes, USAID is large. We've talked about this at length. USAID is essentially the slush money fund, all right, that basically patches up the finances of all these other, non-governmental organizations and other 501c charity groups, right? So yeah, but that's been shut down. Essentially functioning as like a beta CIA to finance change, whether regime change or social change anywhere in the world.
It's
all right?
It's the dark web of CIA.
Right. So now, so showing up at airports, right, with no documentation other than whatever paperwork they got when they were apprehended. So all these people traveling on this program,
for example, a warrant.
Yes. So all the people who are transported on this through this pipeline, okay, they're all people who were captured or at the border or wherever, right? So they at least have some documentation of being caught at the border. Well, it turns out that this documentation is all they need in the form of ID to get through security at TSA to travel anywhere in the country, which is, like I said, I'm reading this yesterday, posted it in the show chat, right? And it's it just it takes us back. It just reminds us of what clown world we lived in, okay, for the last 4 years, okay?
Mm-hmm.
So, we can go into here. So, all right. Didn't even have ID, but all right. So let's talk about some of these forms of documentation that are valid to travel on basically airlines in the United States with actual citizens, okay? So a warrant for arrest of alien, all right? This is enough documentation, this is your ID to get through security. Order a warrant of removal of deportation. Okay, now that's the part where they're not cooperating with ICE. All right, we're talking about illegals who have actual documentation stating that they are to be deported, and they are using the piece of paper that says I need to be promptly exited from this country immediately to get through security at an airport. Think about that. All right. Order of removal on recognizance. Even more blatant. This is a document that states, if you see me, deport me, okay? We can just use that as ID to get through airport security, all right? Order of supervision, notice to a peer, a proviso statement, basically meaning that you have a court date. That's acceptable. Arrival and departure form, meaning that, you've been documented in the country illegally before, therefore you're forever allowed to fly government subsidized airways in the United States. Interesting. And alien booking record. Okay. So no ID required, simply the paperwork that you got from our government when you got caught or apprehended illegally crossing the border.
Yeah. And Cameron mentions, and here it is in the article, these documents could be displayed electronically at TSA checkpoints, meaning an illegal alien could present a photo or screenshot on their device, and TSA agents were permitted to grant them passage.
Yep. So these Obama phones that illegals are getting, all right, basically that is their passport into the country. So, because everything's loaded on that CBP One app, which was unceremoniously defunded and shut down days into Trump assuming office. So, right. Well, yeah. Remember how bad it was 6 months ago? This is just 6 months ago.
Yeah.
So there's so much, and I mean,
it kind of feels like we went from Thunderdome to Elysium, just like overnight.
Well, Elysium. Are we in the space station or are we on the ground? Elysium is Elysium would describe the Western world post 1965, I'd say. Especially
Waller brings up a great
Europe.
question. However, would they falsify these types of documents?
Yeah, exactly. Yep.
Like, I don't know how many lawyers y'all know, but let me tell you something. There's a reason they always have a blue ink pen.
What's that?
Lawyers always have a blue ink pen. You always sign documents with blue ink. It helps prevent making a false copy of the original.
Gotcha.
Yep. Now it's not as effective nowadays. Printers do a very good job. Modern printers do a very good job of printing color, but with the blue ink, it's easier to look at it and tell whether or not it's an authentic live signature or a photocopy. It used to be that, the Xerox machine, it was all black and white. And if you filled out the documents with a blue pen and you made copies, then the blue ink would be black because of the way that Xerox machines used to work. But
right. Well, and one of the glaring things about this is that the government itself, TSA and DHS, were actually gloating about how great this program was, how efficient it was. Okay,
right.
And that they were saying that it cut down the processing and the waiting time at airports, down to a minimum. So essentially, what you had here is a situation where illegal immigrants are basically getting that TSA pre-check. All right, that the TSA pre-check treatment. Right, where they're already vetted essentially by the government, and then you can just kind of show ID and walk straight through security. So they were gloating about the efficiency of their operation and transporting their demographic bioweapons across the country.
Yeah.
Yep.
Oh.
And, yeah. So just what's going on in the chat here? Have Aaron Olson, have they discussed the new gold card Trump discussed yesterday? No, we haven't.
We have not covered that yet.
That's basically, we already have that had that program in place for a while. It's the rich person visa, essentially. There's always been some variation of that in the book.
Right.
Yeah.
What was the other Intel World story you wanted to cover?
The one, it was a CNN report. You posted it. You posted the article in the show chat. So just pull it up. Oh wait, no. We got something else. I want to show the two people. If you go into the Camarillo, I want to show the two people who are responsible, well, at least on paper, for the CBP-1 program. Okay, so this is their brainchild. Pull up Julian E. Williams first. If you
hold on.
If you could. I'm sorry.
No, it's okay. It's damn it.
Uh-oh. Are we about to enter a live is hard mode moment?
Kind of. Let's see how this works. Let's see if this does the trick.
All right, there we go.
Okay.
All right.
That's him on the left.
Yes, correct. So Julian Williams is the guy on the left. If you could zoom in a little bit, I just wanted just some commentary on government employees. All right. Other than looking zesty and looking sweet, okay. Julian Williams, this is the epitome.
That's a nice tie.
Yeah, well, this is the epitome of like a government employee. All right, wearing his his Brooks Brothers or his Men's Warehouse, like untailored, right off the shelf, freaking minimum thread count jacket. That's basically bursting at the seams. I mean, look at this dude.
Yeah.
This dude. You know this dude's living large on those per diems. Okay, this motherfucker.
Oh yeah, if he sneezes, he's going to take somebobody's eye out with his top button.
This dude's rolling into Golden Corral and he's eating all the scramps. Okay, telling you. And he's not even. He doesn't even look that bright either. Okay, you can't tell me this guy's in charge or had anything to do with developing an app. Okay. Let alone developing like a parking sign. Anyway, that's your Williams. Now, if you scroll to the right, forgot this guy's name. Anyway, he's a governor that he met. Now that's an actual tailored suit. You see that one?
Yeah.
It's a thicker thread count. I just thought that was because having been in been in the military, working in the Fort Meade, in the DC Capital Beltway area, right? There's a lot of military personnel who work a job in plain clothes around there. Okay, and just you just look at that picture. I know the it's not that clear. Okay, on the given the medium, okay, that we're working with here, but the
Right.
difference between the you can tell who's the government employee by looking at his freaking suit. All right. Now, next, the other person in charge of this CB1 program. Okay, literally Karen. Literally Karen. This is Melissa Conley. Okay, like this woman here. Pull out some so we can get that Panuelo action. So this is clearly a woman who's like egg carton has hit the expiration date. She has no children, half a dozen cats, and is just miserable and thinks of ways to destroy other people's lives. All right, classic female government employee, Melissa Conley. So these two clowns are the ones responsible for this atrocity of a government program.
Yeah, see, that right there is a woman who she made it to adulthood without any children and thinks that's a flex.
Yeah.
You said I dropped the article in.
Yeah, you did. It's above those pictures. It's right above those pictures. It's in between. Yes, it shows the depth of clown world we are in. And yep, saw that this morning. So Plan C is just straight up treason.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. There it is.
All right.
There it is.
And then you got to click on the link in the Twitter.
Yeah.
All right.
Got it.
So okay, CNN, who is no stranger to fake news or intelligence agency collusion. All right, did an article on the 24th, so 2 days ago, talking about how disaffected government employees in the IC who get fired or furloughed or laid off, or who get doged, basically. All right, well, they could be a threat to national security because they have every incentive to spill the beans to foreign intelligence operatives. You know what I mean? Or it's like okay, so let me get this straight. You tried to put Trump in jail, that failed. You tried to kill Trump, that failed. You tried to get out the vote effort against Trump, that failed. You tried to basically funnel illegal aliens across the country to steal another election, that failed. All right. So now we're at Plan F, just straight up treason. Fuck it.
Yeah, just straight, exactly.
Fuck it at this point.
Yeah, Operation Snowed In.
Nice. Very clever. Yep. So yeah, that's what CNN's saying, and it really is no surprise. I mean, some have said that CNN itself, basically the foundation of it was in partnership with the CIA, okay, to provide like nonstop favorable coverage of the Gulf War, the Iraq War 1, if you want to call it.
Oh yeah, Mario, have you ever seen Wag the Dog?
Yeah, of course. Yeah, that's real. Yeah,
that's
stuff like that. I mean,
yeah,
it's a little salacious,
that film is it's funny, right? There's a lot of comedy there, but that's a documentary.
I agree, Cameron, 100%. Or any position of power whatsoever. Okay,
correct.
Cannot have power. Like look at
and we're backtracking a little bit, but but that Karen chick that you were talking about, that's a woman who that's the kind of chick that goes on TikTok, X, whatever, posts a little video with her little purse puppy and hold her phone out like this and walk in and, I just woke up and I smoked a bowl of pot and I masturbated. I'm going to take a nap and then I'm going to go to the bar and drink martinis with my girlfriends. Yeah. I'm so glad I'm 45 with no children. Bitch, you know nothing. Right? We talk about the threshold thing. We've talked about the threshold thing before. You cannot transmit across the divide between the paradigm shift. A person who has not had children cannot be made to understand that no, the fact that you are at 45 doing the same silly shit that you did when you were 19 or 20 means that you have failed as a development. You are developmentally the equivalent of a 14-year-old kid standing in the yard going, "Pain, insane.
Yep.
You are an actual retard.
Yeah.
You are developmentally arrested.
Well, you're a biological failure, is what you are. Okay. Now, some people can't have children, and I feel pity for them, or for some people it just never happens. But this woman, this Karen, she was not an unattractive woman in her youth. Okay.
But it caught up with her, and now she sits in the shower. She sits in the shower and cries while eating chocolate chip cookies, flicking her bean, and bragging to an empty room about how she made the right decision to abort her three prior pregnancies.
Yeah. Well, I almost feel pity for you, bitch. I guess you better live, laugh, and love as long as you can, because after that, it's nothing but.
Well, she's going to live and laugh.
Women can always get sex if they want it. It's not.
But that's not the same as love.
No, it's not.
That is a whole conversation that I want to do a whole show on. I want to do a show sometime, Mario, when you're up for it. I want to just bring up the sign, in this house we believe. And one of the things on that list is we believe love is love. And I know this is an aside from what we're talking about. We'll get back to the CIA stuff in just a minute. But let me just say this very clearly. Every time a person says love is love in reference to the politics of the LGBTQ stuff, what they are saying, they are asserting that all sexual gratification, including bestiality, pedophilia, and the rape of children, is morally, ethically, and functionally identical with the monogamous heterosexual reproductive function. And that statement is false.
Yeah.
Love is love insofar as you say the same word twice. And yes, they both have the same definition. But the idea that the things that are referred to in one of those utterances for that particular phrase are not love. Sex is not love. Those are two very different things.
Man, when Chris goes on a tangent, he doesn't just go on a tangent. He's grabbing yard signs from 5 years ago and putting them on camera.
Well, the fucking things are still up everywhere. Right? Well,
they are?
I haven't seen them. In fairness, I haven't been around Metro Atlanta in about a year. But the last time I was in Metro Atlanta, they were still up everywhere. That was just a year ago.
Yeah. Going into Atlanta with your family, that's not something one does not simply tread into Atlanta.
No, of course not.
The very soil itself will burn you.
Correct. I mean,
no, you come up with you need you have to do surveillance detection routes first. You have to have an egress plan for your family if you go into Atlanta.
Yeah, we have an active shooter defense plan. My wife knows that, if shit goes down, I will go to work. I will skin my smoke wagon and go to work, and she will draw her little 9mm and get the kids undercover.
Skin my smoke wagon? Is this a southernism I've not heard of? What is?
Yeah, to draw a revolver from the holster.
Okay.
To skin the smoke.
But it never heard of such a thing. You have to remember, at the end of the day, I am a Yankee hailing from the Shire, okay, up north.
Okay? Indeed, my man, you are. Hey, that's when you pull your pistol off your hip and you say, "Ooh, buddy, you done stuck your pecker in the wrong beehive."
See when it's context appropriate, like a gun in your face, yeah, then it makes more sense. I need the pop. I need unverified in the chat's like, thanks for the clarification, mate.
You're welcome, Bear. We're more than we're both professional linguists. We're more than happy to translate English to English for you.
Anyway, I just wanted to mention Aaron Olson dropped. He dropped the meme in the chat The wall remains undefeated. Yes, it does, Eric. Yes, it does.
Indeed. Jason Bryan is correct. It is a Tombstone reference. The skin the smoke wagon.
Okay.
Wyatt Earp says it to, I think he actually said it to what's his name? The Lowry. There was a Lowry on the wrong side of the fight at the OK Corral. He says, skin that smoke wagon and go to work. Come on, boy, I mean it. You jerk that pistol, boy. So anyway, let's read this headline one more time. It says, deep state bureaucrats threaten to sell state secrets if Trump isn't nice to them. Okay, there's some important information in that sentence. Deep state bureaucrats threaten. That means specific people said that they will. So it is either the case that they did.
CNN is saying that some people said.
Correct.
So understand that. Yeah.
Right. So, but let's. I'm actually going to read the article. This is the article from the Federalist about the CNN article. Brace yourself as the propaganda press tries to stop President Trump from culling corporate. Oh, excuse me. From culling corruption from the deep state. Expect news stories about screaming about ordinary budget and staff cuts that would happen in any bloated private business, but under Trump will be described as unfair or even dangerous. Take, for example, the February 24th number from CNN, how Trump's government-cutting moves risk exposing the CIA's secrets.
You got hiccups or something? You need me to read?
Yeah, I do. Okay.
I can read if you need me to.
Let me. Okay, I'll get that back. I'll get back to that in just a minute. But let me hit that real quick. Another CNN article entitled "How Trump's Government-Cutting Moves Risk Exposing the CIA's Secrets." Let me clarify something for you. No, they don't.
Yeah.
Because here's how it works. If you work in the clandestine services industry in any form whatsoever, you have been taken into a quiet little room with a scary person and a stack of paperwork, just like Hillary Clinton was, in reference to the email server. And the stack of paperwork is a non-disclosure agreement. It's actually several non-disclosure agreements, and it very explicitly explains violation of this agreement is constituted by this action, this action, this action, or this action. If you take any of these actions, you will be in breach of this agreement. A breach of this agreement is a breach of the law. Now, you'll remember back with the whole Clinton email scandal, Comey's argument was, well, she didn't mean to, right? He came out and he laid it all out. She absolutely 100% took the specific actions detailed in her NDAs that say clearly she has broken the law. She has committed a serious crime here, but she didn't mean to. Never mind that intent was never a part of the crime. He argued that she didn't have the intent because she was not adequately sophisticated to understand that what she was doing constituted that intent. And I haven't just read the same NDA. I've signed the same NDAs.
Yeah, not to mention, right? Hillary is in fact a lawyer. Hillary got her start working out on the Watergate, on Nixon's Watergate scandal. She is a lawyer. You can't tell me she did. No, that's not an acceptable excuse.
And Mario, if you remember, when you sign the last page of the NDA, it says by signing this document, you confirm that you have read, understood, and consent to enter into this agreement.
Right.
And when you sign this NDA, there's somebody there who reads it to you. So there's no question of whether or not you have had the information exposed to you. This isn't like an end user agreement on a video game where you scroll to the bottom of the page and click go just so that you can get on to the first cutscene.
Yeah,
you have to read it.
Yeah,
it's read to you to guarantee that.
I can sympathize with what Edward Snowden did, but just based on the documents that he signed, that I signed as well, he might as well stay in Russia. He's never coming home, because if he does,
correct,
he's going to Leavenworth for a long time, and legally he has no defense.
Agreed.
Yep. So stay in Putin's good graces, buddy.
Yeah. So I say all that to say this, where it says that Trump's cost-cutting measures risk exposing the CIA secrets. Hey, Mario, are you still active duty?
No.
Does that mean that you've been released from your obligation under the NDA?
No.
Correct.
It's forever.
Correct. In fact, if we started telling you about some of the shit we did while we were active that's related to the NDA, you might just see us get arrested or shot on camera.
Right. Yeah.
Right. We are bound. We are bound to those agreements for the rest of our lives. Remember coming home, Mario, after work, you sat down with your wife, who also signed some NDAs, and you had conversations over dinner like this. So, hey, babe, how was your day today? Oh, it's good. It's good. What'd you do? You can't talk about it.
Yeah, I mean,
how about you?
There is a process. There is a process where you can get approved, okay, to talk about something. But I mean,
yes,
to be honest, other than periodic bouts of extreme violence, my term in the Army and in the IC just really wasn't that interesting.
A lot of mine wasn't, but some of mine really was. But yeah,
periodic bouts of extreme violence.
But yeah, these NDAs, I mean, they hold you're held to that for the rest of your life. And let me be clear about the severity and extent of these things. Let's say you go on after your term in the military, right? And you want to write an autobiography, right? Maybe you leave and you go into public office and you become
That's primarily what that process I mentioned is for.
Correct. And you want to write an autobiography. You have to have that autobiography reviewed and approved by a clearance approving authority before you can publish it. If you have signed the NDA before and you publish such an autobiography, the approving authority can pick up a copy of that book after it's published, read it, and say, "Oh, you're going to jail now," right? They're like look, other shoulder, like right there. That's there's a copy of Deep Undercover. That's Jack Barsky's story. Jack Barsky, originally Albrecht Dietrich. Jack Barsky was his KGB created identity that eventually became his naturalized American citizen identity after he flipped from the KGB to the FBI and CIA. Guaranteed that book right there had to go through the approval process before it was published, because it's literally the story about how he was a KGB agent and how he became an American agent. Yeah, that book went through the process. I know it did. He and I talked about it in our interview.
Something tells me he did not contact the Kremlin for release of.
I suspect you're correct. In fact, there's a bit in there right at the beginning of it where he talks about something that is probably highly classified by the Russians, and that is that he talks about how he got his signal from the Kremlin that he needed to check in, leave the U.S., and go back to the Kremlin, and it had to do with like a paint spot on an overpass by a subway in New York or something.
If you want to do a Saturday special sometime or something, we should do a show on the Verona papers. Okay, when those were released, when that was unclassified, it showed it showed the true depth of like the communist espionage infiltration in the United States, and they had us, like we had got. on so many levels from Soviet espionage. It's not even funny. But yeah, Verona Papers, interesting stuff if you guys want to check it out. All right.
So, yeah, if basically, the last word I'll say on this story is CNN. It appears to be saying that, like, they have, as the CIA waste staff cuts, current and former intelligence officials say that mass firings could offer a rich recruitment opportunity for foreign intelligence services like China or Russia, who may seek to exploit financially vulnerable or resentful former employees. Like, basically, CNN is out here soliciting espionage.
Yes, that is correct.
And frankly, the CNN reporters need to be investigated, and the so-called current and former CIA, etc. employees that are threatening to sell information in this way, they should just be arrested immediately.
Connections between CNN and the CIA go back to 1991. Like I said,
they go back further than that.
Well, that's when CNN first started. But yeah, I hear you. Maybe Ted Turner had something else going on. But right. Well, I mean, CNN has been thrown out of the White House press corps, right? So they're
yes.
and what immediate petty action Trump can take against them, he has taken against them.
Oh, and we might cover this on tomorrow's show a little bit, or maybe in a show this afternoon. There's the White House journalist. Damn, I can't think of the name of it now. There's a long acronym for it, but it's basically like it's an organization that's separate from the White House that was basically vetting and kind of licensing journalists. And Donald Trump just said that the AP wasn't welcome in the Oval Office for one of the executive order signings recently. They pitched a temper tantrum. They filed a lawsuit, and Trump said, "Okay, fine." Then the whole White House press corps thing you've got going on over there is, nobody that's a member of that union can get in here anymore. If you want to get access to the president as a journalist now, you need to apply. Thank you, Waller, the White House Correspondents Association. So he basically kicked the White House Correspondents Association out, said, if you're a member of that, you're out. And they're pitching a temper tantrum. Oh, this is an assault on the free press. Look, we'll cover this in more depth later. But just to be clear, I've talked about licensure before. I despise licenses, all licenses. I don't care if you're talking about a license, your 5-year-old having to get a license to run a lemonade stand because of government overreach, all the way up to medical and lawyer licenses. Licenses serve two purposes and only two purposes. It is revenue collection and bar to entry.
Right. Licenses
are evil. Right? And what the White House Press Association essentially is a license. It's an organization that creates an artificial license to gatekeep access to the president's press conferences, so that only the worst of the worst, CNN, New York Times, all the garbage USAID funded propaganda outlets that have been telling you the very fine people lies for the last 40 years. The White House Correspondents Association has been the mechanism to cull outside media from having access to legitimate government information for the purposes of reporting honest news.
Yeah, and
Donald Trump just shut that shit down.
Their big gala is the White House Correspondents' Dinner, okay? Which, if I remember correctly, the last two of them of Trump's first term, like he just ditched them. He just didn't even go. Like,
right.
Let the institution die. Now, about licenses, Chris. Okay, were you that Cub Scout who complained to the Scoutmaster that having to meet the requirements to get your whittling shit was an unconstitutional restriction and barrier to entry for you to carry a knife? Or was
I see where you're going with that. I'm amused by it, but no, I've always I've had a knife in my pocket. If I was wearing pants,
All right.
there's been a knife in my pocket, unless there was a magnetometer that I couldn't get around since I was about 5.
My joke fell flat. I'll work on my delivery.
It did.
All right. But it is funny.
No, I mean, I actually was a Cub Scout. I was a Cub Scout and a Boy Scout. I didn't go nearly as far with it as my baby brother, the Order of the Arrow Eagle Scout. But I was a Cub Scout and I was a Boy Scout when I was little. But so I actually had to think about it. Like, wait a minute, No, I just had a knife.
You didn't have a license? You didn't?
Nope.
Yeah. Well, that's kind of funny. I mean, like, if you look at a weapons law, we're just going on a tangent right now because it doesn't matter. The show's over. But if you look at, I think.
Well,
it's
I've got
funny
one more story
like,
I'd like to cover, but
oh,
yeah,
you do.
I do.
Well, if you look at like weapons laws in say like within the European Union, right? And what it takes to own a weapon, like, and then in the United States with the Boy Scouts, you have your whittling chit, which means that you're a big boy and you can carry a knife without hurting yourself or others. we license 10-year-olds for higher grade weaponry than Europe will allow its citizens. It's not funny. It's actually horrifying. Anyway, your article, sir.
Yeah, like all of my kids have their own knife that they don't just have a knife. I will ask them from time to time, "Hey, you got your knife on you? You got your knife?" Right? And it's like a Swiss Army knife or pocket knife, or Michael carries a multi-tool and a little pocket knife like I do.
Waller's trying to help you. He wants you to talk about what you want to talk about. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah. Okay. So here, Waller, this for you. Secret sex chat bombshell exposed. Deep state secrets we all knew were true. Details revealed. This is from a site called rightjournalism.com. It's been reported in several other places. In a shocking expose that validates every conservative's worst suspicions about the deep state, investigative journalists Chris Rufo and Hannah Grossman have uncovered secret chat logs from employees at the National Security Agency, the Central Intelligence Agency, and Defense Intelligence Agency. These unclassified messages detailed on X reveal a cesspool of depravity in government time, discussing aberrant fetishes, gangbangs, and even sickening lust for hermaphroditic children. It's a horror show. Okay. Yeah. The kind of vanilla headline is government employees are basically sexting each other on government time, using, and we're not talking about like they're pulling out their phone and sending text back and forth. No. They're on the government internal chat, right? It's kind of like Slack or, it's kind of like Slack for
or like Microsoft Teams or whatever. You know what I mean?
Right, exactly. Yeah. And they're using that to have these conversations about sex. But here's the thing.
Lurid Reddit tier conversations.
They're not just talking of like having generally lewd conversations. They're talking about, like, they're going into great detail talking about their gender transition surgeries and like completely outlandish, bizarre fetishes. Okay, look, like I said before, and I was kind of working on a transition back there with the love is love thing. Because that's what these people will say, love is love.
Well, a lot of these people have transitioned. That's your transition.
Love is love. No. Your foot binding is not morally identical to the generation of my progeny.
Yeah.
Your love is not love. Your love is trash. Your love is hate and mutilation and self-harm. And if that's what you want to do to yourself in the privacy of your own home, maybe I don't care so much. But you didn't just waste my money on my government time stealing from me to engage in your depravity.
Yeah.
I
mean, people
involved other people.
People in the chat, or as Parks, as Matthew Parks points out, every veteran is not surprised. Yeah, that's true. But some people, maybe you may or may not be surprised to learn that there's a over representation of trannies, okay, and homosexuals within the IC, within the intelligence community. Okay, something about these roles, whether it's like Reddit moderator or 4chan Janny or freaking intelligence analyst, at one of the 3-letter organizations, it just attracts these type of people like flies to shit. Okay, and I don't quite understand it, but
I can explain it.
There's an overabundance of like sexually depraved people within the IC. All right, compared to the average population.
I can explain how that happens, Mario. Mm-hmm. There's a few factors here.
Okay.
There is in fact a fine line between high IQ and psychopathy.
Okay. Yeah.
And that's just the thing. There's a fine line between genius and crazy. So there's a piece of it. Another piece of it is, ever since Obama, there has been a push to bring in more people.
Yeah.
Right.
Yep.
So let me make reference back to the crisis of competency in the airline industry for a moment. We keep hearing, we heard about the crash in Canada, the Delta flight that was so-called unmanned, right? Because it was all women pilots, et cetera, et cetera. And they made a big deal about, we're trying to get more women in. Hold up. Wait a minute. 5% of pilots globally are women. That does not suggest that licensing agencies disprefer women. It suggests that women disprefer being pilots.
Well,
right.
Under the communism of DEI, all equity must be forced. Okay, so
correct. Right. See, same thing with STEM fields in academia. Well, there just aren't that many women interested in science. So we need to make them be interested. Look, if they're not interested, leave them alone. Right. Why do you feel the need to force them there? So
it's like the meme. It's like the meme about it's about the meme of like a Soviet conquest of America, where it shows the Russian in his star, shirt, like the fuzzy hat, right? And the woman's like, I wanted to stay at home and be a homemaker, not to get in the STEM program.
Yeah, exactly. So what you have is the government, since Barack Obama, has been going just ham on trying to bring in the LGBT stuff into the military, which filters into the IC. And here's the other piece of it. You bring them into the military, but you're not talking about hard chargers. You're not talking about physically capable people.
Yeah.
Right? Giant 6'6" monsters like me that can learn a Category 5 foreign language and go do real intel work are rare birds.
And shoulder fire at 240.
I've seen me do it. Yeah. You've seen me do it. But yeah, Mario and I are big, strong guys. We are not the majority in the IC. Right.
We're not called we're called MI weenies for a reason. All right.
Correct.
Yeah.
So you can't make it in combat arms. Well, there's a lot of room in MI in the IC where you can wear a uniform and take your donut munching ass, your barrel ass, chair force bullshit, and roll around and keep getting fatter at a desk for 20 years.
Your fatty cake packing ass.
Yeah, you can go get your fatty cakes and your gender transition surgery all on the taxpayer dime. And so they've been kind of shuffled into that world.
No, he's not quite that big, Aaron, but he's over 6. Anyway, so I have to work today at 9. Okay, so, and we're at an hour. So, and I do need a little time to spiritually prepare myself for 8 hours of dealing with Ken and Karen's 8 hours of dealing with Ken and Karen's whims, wants, and needs. So I must.
So real quick, yeah, we're at 1 hour. I need to come up with 10 more hours. 10 more hours of live streaming between now and the end of the day on Friday. So, we'll get at least 2 more between tomorrow's show and Friday's show. Mario, I hope you'll join me for both of those. But so that still brings me down to needing 7 or 8 more hours, depending on how long we go with tomorrow and Friday.
We got another wild one on Friday. Florida did it again.
Yeah, buddy. So, but I'll go ahead and put a pin in it there. Mario, you have a good day, brother. And to the rest of you guys, thanks for watching today. Keep an eye out. We might pop up and down. And hey, I ain't gonna lie. It may be that I just go live and in the middle of the night and you can watch me play video games for 6 hours. Just so I can meet the technical numbers that we're short on, because we've got everything else. We've got the subscribers, we've got the time and service, time and grade, and we just need to get the time on air. But we're right there, so go ahead and do it.
Punish the audience by forcing them to watch you play Magic the Gathering Solitaire for 6 hours.
Yeah, there you go. All right, you guys be safe out there. We love you, and we will see you tomorrow with the latest.
Yeah. All right. Very nice. Very nice. Okay.
Yep.